Feelings, nothing more than feelings. I always do that to test the mic. I want to be a lounge singer one day, I swear.
So they gave us cards of what to talk about. We're going to talk about none of it. Let's just start with the elephant in the room. You were an investor in FTX.
Yes.
What the hell's up with that?
Yes, I was, just to be clear and transparent about it, I was an investor in FTX International, FTX US, and a paid spokesperson received $18 million.
So you were like in the bed.
I was in, yes. And so we all know what happened with this, and I'm involved in multiple litigations, which I think will go for years and years and years. But I think the interesting aspect of FTX Pomp that we should talk about here is what's next. Because in my view of this market today, and if you think about pre-FTX, just 14 months ago, Binance and FTX were 94% of the market for a new digital economy, digital payment systems, tokens, Bitcoin, everything else. Today, just months later, that era is over. FTX obviously is history, and Binance will be history soon. And the question is, what happens next?
Why do you say that Binance is going to be history?
I think everybody understands now the day of the crypto cowboy is over. The regulator has won, not because the regulator is a good or bad guy, because the actual infrastructure of finance, the multi-trillion-dollar market that makes the world tick, whether it's FX trading, stocks, bonds, whatever, it never integrated into the cowboy zone of crypto. And it's one of the reasons that Bitcoin, while it's had a good run this year, has never really broken out, because it's not allocated by sovereign wealth at all. It's not allocated by pension. It's not allocated by any institution that has to trade in the S&P 500, which is pretty well every institution on earth that has money. So let me give you an example so we all understand this. If you're a Middle Eastern sovereign fund and you're generating 500 million cash every 24 hours in US dollars, clearing in New York on your oil barrel, that's where it goes, where do you put that money? The only market on earth you can place it is index it into the S&P 500, X oil, X airlines. Now, you're not going to put a 3% allocation in anything on Binance or FTX or anything that is being litigated by any regulator anywhere. And so that's simply how it works. So at the end of the day, Binance goes to zero eventually. It'll just be starved of oxygen wherever that poor guy goes. And we got to be thankful for him, because he was a great entrepreneur that started something great. But he's got multiple charges from everything from money laundering to intermingling accounts. They're after him personally. I've seen this story before. It ends really badly. And worse for him, no institution's going to give him a dime.
So this week, there's rumors that the Bitcoin spot ETF is going to get approved in the United States. Maybe it happens this week. Maybe it happens in a couple of months. What is the impact, and will that lower capital from sovereign wealth funds and other organizations into the Bitcoin market?
Well, first of all, I love this narrative with you, because we do it every year. We always talk about the Bitcoin ETF every year. I think this is year 4 or 5, right? There's not going to be any Bitcoin ETF until there's an exchange that is compliant with the SEC. And right now, Coinbase is in litigation. So where do they clear to create? I'm in the ETF market. You have to create an ETF based on the spot market pricing by the day. And you need an exchange to clear it. It has to be transparent, and it has to be compliant with regulators. I would not get excited about a Bitcoin ETF until this issue is resolved domestically. Now, I think it'd be a great product. It would allow people to put it into their savings accounts as a security. There wouldn't be any debate about it. They did it in Canada. It worked immediately. They did it with ETH there too. You can do a Bitcoin ETF, you can do an ETH ETF, and it's in Canada. They're completely regulated now by the OSC. But here, I went to those hearings just 6 weeks ago in Washington when Gensler was testifying. Wow, they were beating him up. And he was taking it and just saying, bring it, bring it. And so I don't think he's as flexible as people think. And we'll see what happens. But you only have to wait 18 months. His mandate will probably be over in 18 months.
All right, we want the good stuff. What sovereign wealth funds are itching to buy Bitcoin? Which big organizations that people maybe aren't thinking about are waiting to buy Bitcoin? I know you're having private conversations.
Yeah, all of them. All of them.
All of them are ready.
All of them are ready to go for 50 basis points to 300 basis point. Pretty well all of them. Only two things missing. And the only one they care about right now, and I think people in this room kind of know this, is Bitcoin. They're not interested in the 10,000 token story. Bitcoin is proving itself to be liquid enough. It's proving itself to be a storage of wealth. Most people consider it a commodity. They need two things. They need compliance with the SEC, whatever that looks like, whatever the rules are, because I don't think Gensler has said yet he thinks it's a commodity. He may still think, his view may be it's a security. To me, I'm indifferent. I don't care what he does as long as he says, okay, it's compliant. That's number one. But the other thing that's a challenge people have not thought about, and I've talked to a lot of institutional buyers about this, if you're running, let's say, a $10 billion mandate, you generally have rules and compliance that look like this. No more than 20% in any one sector, no more than 5% in any one asset class. And you mark to market when New York closes at 405. And the whole system pushes up to your compliance department, and they look at every single position. Oh, there's one at 5.2%. You have to sell that down to 5% to be compliant. Bitcoin trades 24/7 in perpetuity. So it's volatile. It makes big moves in both directions. How is compliance going to deal with it? Let's say they say, okay, 5% weighting max on Bitcoin in a $30 billion fund. The manager of that fund is going to buy to 5, and then what? Is he going to sit at home while he's having dinner looking at his phone going, oh shit, it just made a 20% move, what do I do? Because the compliance system isn't working as stocks and bonds and other alternative asset classes. That software has been built. And by the way, FTX was trying to do that. That's why I was involved with those guys, trying to design that compliance element that would plug into an institution. They never got there. Binance certainly doesn't do it. They don't. Anyways, I don't know about what those guys are doing.
So I know that the allocations exist because you gave me a crash course on CNBC while you were screaming at me in 2019.
Oh, do we really have to revisit that?
Of course. You told me that it was garbage and that no one should buy it. I'm glad you've come around.
I did say that. That is true. Yeah.
Let's talk about watches. You have two on. I think if you could wear one on your forehead, you would.
Yes.
So what's going on in the watch market?
So watch market has actually beat the S&P now for the 8th year in a row. It's the asset class is now an alternative asset class. I would call it equivalent to modern art, the same. The role of the independent, the FP Journes of the world, obviously the three horsemen, AP, Rolex, and Patek Philippe, have all appreciated dramatically in value. They're coveted around the world. But I say what's occurred is the emergence of the Asian buyer. The Chinese buyer particularly has decided that this asset class is a lot easier to work with, is storage of wealth than many other asset classes. I mean, try going over a border with a kilogram bar of gold. Not so easy. But a watch is worth more than that bar of gold, and it's on your wrist. And so what's happened throughout all of the Asian markets is that's where all the demand is gone. And the reason you can't walk into any of the stores here in New York and buy a Rolex Daytona, steel white-faced Daytona, which used to be an entry-level watch for a college student, it's the most coveted watch on earth today because every single piece goes to Asia. And I think that will remain in place. I wear two watches now because I have so many pieces that I'm trying to get through them. And I'm a believer that if you don't wear a watch, it loses its soul. And so I met this dealer in Dubai called Siddiqui, who takes care of all the royal families. And by the way, I want you to know something that always humbles. You should always be humbled by this. Before I went to the UAE, and I recently got my golden passport, my citizenship, I thought I was the world's largest watch collector. I really did. Then I got there, and I realized in the first day, I am dog shit. I am nothing compared to those guys. And I got a lesson in humility. And everybody has to serve a master. They have, the largest watch collector on earth over there has 29,000 pieces worth over $1 billion. That's a watch collection. The room is bigger than this. It's just full of drawers. All of them 000 serial numbers, first of its kind, first of its, I mean, I love this kind of stuff. I mean, it's just, this is the ultimate collector. I mean, his name is Claude Saphir. He's Lebanese, diamond collector.
Let's talk about the Fed and their monetary policy. They had rates at 0. Then they went the fastest hike of interest rates in history. They seem to have destroyed investor demand for a while. Consumer demand seems not really to have been killed. What happens? Do we get high levels of inflation for decades to come, or does the Fed win?
So, I mean, the easiest answer to this, Pomp, is the Fed has a mandate that says they work until they achieve a 2% inflation rate. Inflation, as we sit here today talking, is 3.6. Now, everybody's trying to contort that number with saying, let's pull out energy, let's pull out food, let's pull out housing. That's what people eat and live in. So they feel it, and the Fed is not going to stop holding rates where they are. And I actually think, unfortunately, in the new year, they will raise another 25 to 50 basis points, making the terminal rate 6%. It's 5.5 now. And the reason is the economy is doing incredibly well for a rate increase like this, which happens so quickly. But there are cracks showing, and it's showing first in the regional banks. But the reason the market doesn't correct is it has a put under it. It's two bills, and you've heard of them. The IRA, you know, the Inflation Reduction Act, $1 trillion free money, not used yet, and the Chips and Science Act, $1 trillion, not a dime spent yet, free money to be printed. And so if you look at those acts, which I have, and you say, where is that money going? Where's it going to go? Realizing that in America here, small business, which I'm a massive advocate for and very vocal about, creates 60% of American jobs. Businesses with 5 to 500 employees. The CHIPS Act and the IRA Act are focused almost 100% at the S&P 500, where 40% of the jobs are created, of which half are in foreign countries. So this is a misalignment now, because the way it should work when there's free money printed, and this goes to Fed policy too, every time you print $1, 60 cents of it should go to America's small businesses. 40 cents on the dollar should go to the S&P 500, the other 40%. There is no logic in my mind that would change that ratio. And I ask anybody in this room to argue with me why that shouldn't be the case. Why are we giving all of our money to a tiny fraction of the economy? You never ever see the White House invite a council of small business for a day, where 60% of jobs are created. It's always the big guys. Now, this is a broken situation on these next two acts, and this is going to be a big problem. It's very inflationary to print free money. It's crazy to send it overseas. It's nuts not to support small business in America that represents 60%. And if anybody can argue to me why we shouldn't fix this, I'm happy to listen. Now, I've become a total pain in the ass on the Hill. I go there almost every 3 weeks. I walk up and down the halls, taking meetings with anybody I can, pointing out this discrepancy. These are the guys that wrote the bills. They wrote it, and somebody made a mistake. There's never been a situation like this. And so I predict a lot of volatility and a lot of reinterpretation of those bills. Apparently, the Secretary of Commerce, who I just met in New York 10 days ago, told me that she's part of the CHIPS Act, Gina from Rhode Island, and she told me there's $9 billion in it for small business. So I said, listen, Secretary, if that's true, I'm bringing my analysts to Washington. You show us where that is in the act, we'll go get it for small business. And she has agreed to do that. So at least there's government that's willing to integrate with the private sector here. I'm going to go do that. And if I can figure it out, I've got a database of 100,000 small businesses. They all want to hear the outcome of this. But our economy now is being bolstered by another $2 trillion of free money. And everybody in the market knows that, saying, all this free money is going to the S&P, so why don't I just buy the S&P index? It's sitting at an 18 PE, of which 10 stocks are almost 60% of that value.
Not only is there $2 trillion going to the U.S., there's also hundreds of billions that are going abroad. Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Hamas. How do you see that spending, which some people are arguing is going to American businesses in the defense sector? Others are arguing it's just being given to foreign countries or individuals. How does that play into the situation?
Yeah, that's a tough question, and I knew you were going to ask this. So, let me just say right out of the get-go out of this thing, I, like everybody else, look at these images. Let's talk about Gaza first. I don't care what side of that equation you're on. It is extremely hard to watch this because it's the first war of its kind where every detonation is covered by 10 cell phones. And the outcome is seen seconds later all around the world, and it's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. And it's so hard to watch that every night. Now, having said that, let's think about it from the policy side. This is not politics, this is policy. Right now, the tension that's starting to occur in that situation is public opinion of wars like this, and this also applies to the Ukraine to a certain extent, it's being proposed that it be funded by the American taxpayer. And you're starting to see this occur. I taught a Harvard case 10 days ago at Harvard, and it was the first night that this broke out. And the students were protesting both sides of this equation simultaneously. But really what's occurring here is the American taxpayer is being asked to fund these conflicts. And what that really means is to buy munitions and send them to a place where they're used to kill people. And for the first time ever, I'm starting to see people question that mandate, because it's never been like this, where you actually see your tax dollar explode in front of your face every night, regardless of your politics or which side of this equation you're on. And I think now, for the first time, it's going to be really hard to get every person in every jurisdiction of every governor and every senator to say, yeah, I'm good for sending munitions all over the world and to pay for it. I've never seen anything like this. This is a new, and I'm getting it from all of my 27-year-old kids' friends who, come over. Every millennial's having this conversation. Am I okay with funding the world's wars on the idea that somehow I'm keeping it safer? Well, hopefully that's true, but it certainly doesn't look like it every night on the news. That's the problem.
The presidential election's coming up. Who do you think will be the next president, and does the next president matter when it comes to the economy?
Yes, the next president matters on a policy basis. I've always said this to people. I don't make any money in politics at all. You don't make money in politics. You make money with policy. So you want policy that deregulates the economy, that takes away restrictions on market forces, that is pro-business, specifically small business in America. Small businesses can't afford to hire 50 lawyers to apply to get a kitchen in California, where you need to have 3 lawyers so you can open a small restaurant. It's ridiculous. And so this will matter. Obviously, you're watching this play out every day. I mean, I don't know how any of these candidates that are competing with Trump are going to end up catching him. They're so far away from him. They keep dropping every weekend. I don't know, whether you like Trump or you don't. And then you've got all the issues associated with Biden, and there are issues. And so that's probably what it looks like. And remarkably, I would have thought 91 indictments would have slowed him down a little bit, but that hasn't happened. And these are extraordinary outcomes. Now, if he gets back into the White House, I'm talking about Trump, probably if he goes back to the policies we had before, that would be better for business.
Is there a connection between, you mentioned, watching the news, every explosion in these wars is immediately on social media, things like Trump's mugshot, and then it goes viral online. Are those like similar mechanisms where, to some degree, popularity and fame online is now playing out in the real world, and that's why he's still kind of bulletproof when it comes to some of these charges? Yeah,
I mean, I'll tell you the way I look at this. 2 years ago, maybe not, we spend across all of my private companies, I've got almost 40 of them now, around $2 million a month advertising. So what we've started to do is aggregate the buys so that we can go to entities that do remnant buys on cable. So we advertise on cable television, network television, all social media platforms except Twitter. And so, and I'm not against Twitter, it's just not a good place to advertise right now. The yields are really low because it's, I don't know what it is. I mean, it's that place needs a little work. But anyways, it's sort of, when you start to actually think about what's going to happen in terms of social media, let me just turn this off. So let's just say we're just some random guy spending $2 million a month. All we look at is, and this is the amazing thing about media today, we can spend it on a Tuesday morning and by Friday afternoon know our yields, our CAC, our customer acquisition cost, and our ROAS, return on advertising spend, on every single platform. And so I've told my CEOs, just be agnostic. Just tweak it every Tuesday morning. I don't care where you spend it. Let's get the lowest CAC and the highest ROAS we can. And that's right now not television. And so when you ask a politician to spend money in an election, I mean, I have a program where the CAC on Google is $330, and the same CAC on business cable, all business cable, $1,750. Where do you think the money's going to go? So and I'm not the only guy doing this. The sophistication of the spend today on social, it's so effective and powerful. And new platforms, keep changing their algorithms. TikTok, I thought 24 months ago was just dancing teenage girls. It is the fastest growing platform for small business in America with the lowest CAC. I love TikTok, but it's also the highest production cost to get your 59 seconds out there. You got to pay. I used to pay $40,000 for a good TikToker a year. Now it's $240,000. So I'm moving that production. What we're going to try is I'm setting up in Abu Dhabi. I'm going to set up a post-production facility in Abu Dhabi. They have amazing talent over there from all around the world. Shoot the content in America, post it, repost it out of there, and try and cut back the millions we're spending every quarter with, post-production costs. And I'm not the only guy doing that. I mean, everybody's trying to solve this globally.
China and TikTok, any concerns?
I don't do much in China because those guys don't play by the rules. I mean, I have so many products that have been knocked off by the factories over there. I am all about treating China the way they treat us and having a level playing field. What I would like to see happen, and I don't think this is too draconian, I can't litigate in China, so they shouldn't be able to litigate here. I don't know why we let them list any companies on our exchanges, because they're not compliant with our accounting and transparency. And believe me, if we actually said...
Wait, hold on a second. Are you calling for a ban of all Chinese companies listed in the United States?
Yes. That's simple.
You guys are welcome.
No, I'm just saying, I'm not banning them. I'm just saying until you pay the same compliance costs I have to pay to list my company on the NYSE or the NASDAQ, you can't list. What's wrong with that? Look, I have nothing against the Chinese people. I just want them to play by the rules. It's their leadership that won't play by the rules. I'm saying if you don't have, it's not fair that you don't have to pay the same compliance I have to pay. If you don't pay the same compliance, you can't list. I'm not worried about listing in China. I'm not worried about listing my company there because I know I'm going to get ripped off. And I'm a nice guy about China. I'm the nice guy. I want to have that market open. I want to do business there. But I don't want to be screwed. Like, that's not fair anymore. So I'm for the, they understand the stick. They want the stick. Let's give them the stick. And then what you're going to get is, okay, we understand you have a stick. Let's work it out. These guys aren't stupid. They're smart. They need our market. We need their market. Nothing wrong with the stick.
Artificial intelligence, is that going to replace some of your companies, some of your talent, or are you not worried about it?
I hope so. I hope it is disruptive and reduces my cost by 30%. I was talking to an insurance executive about the sales process for insurance. This was just around watch insurance, because very complicated market. In the United States, watches, if you try and put them on your home rider, they're not really insured. And yet in every state, there are multiple regulators. So you have to have all these different insurance policies. AI can solve for that, so you can just take a picture, and I'm getting into that business. Of course, I'm self-promoting it right now. It's called wondercare.com. It'll be lit up in January, and I'm doing it for my watch collection. Use it for yours. 1.5% for either the replacement value or the purchase value of your watch collection, or even your watch. I mean, that's it. But we're going to use AI to price the insurance, obviously. I don't think AI is going to be as big a deal as people think. I don't think it's going to, you know, it's like, oh, there's television, radio is going to be wiped out. I don't, never happen. I think it's a tool. It's a productivity tool akin to the internet when it came out decades ago. And I think it's going to be useful. But a lot of these stocks that people are putting huge bets on are going to get crushed. And it's just like the hype cycle in biotech in the early days. It's another hype cycle. But I like it for a tool, and let's see if it works.
Do you short any stocks?
I don't short stocks anymore because shorting stocks requires, in many cases, disclosures. And I'm trying to reduce our compliance costs, not increase them. And we operate in so many markets that we have to be compliant in, including domestically here, in all kinds of levels. And I'm operating now in places like Ireland and Abu Dhabi, more compliance costs. You know, people think those places are the Wild West. They're not. It's very expensive to comply there.
We're going to play rapid fire for the last 60 seconds. Ready?
Yeah.
Ready? Say something nice about Mark Cuban.
Next.
It may take all 60 seconds.
Look, Mark and I have worked together successfully on Shark Tank for 15 years. Look what it's become. We're very proud of our work. I can't imagine doing it without him. I mean, we are each other's foils. Everybody knows that. And I should invoice for all the things I've taught him.
Tell very quickly the potato story and why that's your best investment.
The potato story? Okay. Company comes on Shark Tank. Guy holds up a potato. It starts doing a dance and says, I put your face on this potato and I ship it to you in the mail. I mean, I've heard stupid ideas, but that was the all-time insane idea I'd ever heard. But I remembered that Cuban did a deal called I Want to Draw a Cat for You, where a guy draws a cat and then sends it to you, and you pay him like $100. This guy said, for $39, I'll send you a potato with your face on it to anybody you want. I said, okay. I mean, if Draw a Cat made money, why can't the potato? And that's exactly what happened. We just sold that company. The potato parcel just got sold. I mean...
How much revenue was it doing?
It was doing a few $1 million a year. It wasn't huge, but it was... The one that was the real insane one that is beyond any was called Base Pause. It's 3 years ago. Woman comes on, Anaskaya. I made a lot of money with women entrepreneurs. About 75% of my deals are women entrepreneurs. And she said, there's 110 million cats in America. You buy my $29.95 cat DNA test kit. You stick this Q-tip in the cat where the sun doesn't shine. You send it back to my lab, and I can extend the cat's life up to 30%. And I said to her, Anna, I can buy a new cat for $5. Why would I give you $29.95 for a test kit? Now, that was the wrong answer for cat lovers in America, but I invested in her because she was so intriguing. That company just got bought by a big pharma pet care division for a undisclosed NDA'd amount of money that was more than you can imagine because she had all the cat DNA data. During the pandemic, she got hundreds of thousands of cat samples. So now they can modify foods for cats. There's only 3 basic genres of cats that extend their lives up to 30 years. I mean, and now I love cats. I love cats.
One of my favorite data points is that there are more dogs in America than children under the age of 18, which means the dog market is bigger than the kids market. My last question before I let you go is, what is your current portfolio allocation?
Yeah, interesting. You know, after the FTX fiasco, I was at 20% in crypto across 32 different positions. I'll start with the crypto portfolio. Our biggest right now, our main holdings are in Polygon, ETH, and Bitcoin. They're pretty material, and those are the most liquid in the sense of, you know, where you just want to, and frankly, what institutions keep telling me is, why do I need to own anything except Bitcoin? They're so correlated, and they're right if you look at the data. So that's resolving itself. I have been buying a lot of real estate lately, in residential real estate in coastal cities, which I feel is you know, people tell me, well, you're crazy. Miami is going to have a massive correction. They've been saying that now for 9 years. During a period of low rates and high rates, just try and rent a condo in Miami Beach right now. So I'm trying to buy them so I can rent them out. It's something that I like. Hard assets.
You should check out Arrived as one of the sponsors here.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, and I do a lot of private equity deals. I'm still interested in investing in crypto exchanges that are compliant. So I own a big piece of what's up in Canada called WonderFi. And then I'm going over to Dubai to the opening of M2, which is 10 days from now. M2 will be probably the largest compliant exchange on Earth. And my guess is, and I'm speculating personally, they're going to get half of Binance's accounts, probably overnight. Because if you think about Bitcoin, about 38%, nobody knows for sure, but 38% of the accounts are US, the rest are global. Now, you won't be able to take a US account onto M2, but everybody else can. So the rest of the world. And I think for me, that's sort of the end of the Binance story. And as I said earlier when we started, the crypto cowboy era is over. Now the integration with the real money is starting, and this is why crypto could be so exciting. It's just when everybody hates it is the time to go. Like, and everybody hates it right now, including the regulators.
Ladies and gentlemen, the nicest man on the planet, Kevin O'Leary.
Thank you very much.